Hey there and welcome to SI Now. It's Thursday, June 22nd, and for basketball fans, it's a date we've all circled for months, Robin, the NBA Draft. I'm Ryan Estelta alongside Robin Lundberg, and joining us for our NBA Mock Draft edition of SI Now are Sports Illustrated's Ben Golliver and Andrew Sharp, the co-host of the Open Floor podcast.
And the draft now just about 8 hours away. We're going to give you our final Sports Illustrated mock draft as we break down the lottery, picks 1 through 14. And for those of you watching us on Facebook, we want to hear what you think, so let us know in the comment section.
Now, Robin and guys, we know the tone of this draft. It was set earlier this week when the Sixers and Celtics swap picks. Tons of rumors still floating around before Adam Silver takes the podium later on tonight in Brooklyn. Andrew, do you see any moves being made before the draft begins tonight?
I mean, it's been a wild 96 hours of rumors. So there's definitely going to be a couple things that happen in the next 6 to 8 hours, and then especially once the draft kicks off. I mean, like half the top 10 is in play for a trade. So I really have no idea what to expect. We're 4 guys standing in a room here. We'll do our best. But, I mean, everything's on the table. Porzingis is in the mix, everything. So
I think that's the thing, right? It's all the stars that have been mentioned. Porzingis kind of out of nowhere last night, coming onto this trade room, really getting serious. But you've got Paul George, you've got Jimmy Butler, you've got a lot of big names that could potentially be moved as part of deals. Not to mention, we already saw one huge deal, 1 and 3, Philly and Boston. So, I mean, to me, this has already been kind of fireworks, right?
there's a real chance that tonight could end with riots outside Madison Square Garden.
I mean, the only exit meeting Phil Jackson should be concerned with is his own, I would think, at this point in time. But let's get started.
That's a good line. Quickly, though, can we talk about how condescending Phil Jackson must be in those exit meetings, lecturing people about the triangle after he signed Noah and Rose? I mean, it's brutal.
He's got diagrams of reverse pivot moves, and you know, Porzingis is like, come on, man. Like,
Porzingis, that was like self-preservation. Had he gone to that interview, he would have freaked out on Phil. So he just had to leave and keep it respectful.
He knew what he was in for. That's why he took off for Europe,
exactly.
right?
It really is unbelievable. The Knicks not at the top of the draft. Let's go to picks 1 through 14. The Sixers, they're on the clock. Andrew, a lot of mystery here. Who's the pick for Philadelphia?
Gotta keep it simple. Markelle Fultz, as far as I'm concerned, he is in a tier of his own with this class. I mean, there are a lot of potential all-stars, but Fultz is the safest bet and has, I mean, he's got sort of the highest floor. His skills will allow him to translate pretty quickly, and he also has one of the highest ceilings. I mean, if you saw James Harden in Houston this year, that's the player that I think a lot of teams around the league are looking for Fultz to become. And it's going to take a little while, and I think maybe Boston wasn't completely sold, but he fits so well in Philly, and it's a no-brainer for them.
And I got a question about Fultz. The one red flag I keep seeing is that record of Washington during his 1 year there. 9-22. Why wasn't he, with his type of talent, able to transform that into, you know, a team victories and wins throughout the year?
yeah, who cares? College basketball does not matter. We're here in the NBA. I mean, this is a big-time playmaker, like he's saying. What I love about the Fultz pick for Philadelphia is it works in their best-case scenario where he's part of a big three with Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid. I think that fit looks great. But let's just imagine the worst-case scenario where a guy like Joel Embiid is just not able to stay on the court for them. You need to have somebody to kind of carry that face, keep the fan base invested. I mean, they have 4 years of process pain coursing through their veins at this point. They need somebody to kind of believe in. I think he represents that as well. You look at that pairing between him and Simmons, I think it's a natural fit. Simmons, non-shooter, Fultz balances that out. They can both be big-time ball handlers. I like it a lot. I mean, I can see them really running a lot of successful stuff in pick and rolls with either one of those guys as the lead guard. I think if you're trying to buy stock in the team, I mean, Philly's the team to buy right now.
The other thing that I would add is a lot of the one question related to that winning, the record at Washington, the question about Fultz is like, is he a winner? Does he have that chip on his shoulder? Will he be motivated? And if he needed any motivation, Boston spent 6 weeks analyzing him, meeting with him, and decided they didn't want him. So he will be pissed off at the Celtics, and he will get several chances a year to prove them wrong. And I think that'll be fun to watch, too.
All right, let's move on to number 2. The Lakers move their roster around a little bit. D'Angelo Russell goes to Brooklyn. Brook Lopez comes to L.A. Lakers have the 2 pick, Ben. It seems like they just cleared a spot for someone there.
Yeah, they kind of telegraphed this one, right? I mean, I think it's going to be Lonzo Ball. I mean, that's been the rumor. I live in LA. I mean, people have been kind of hoping for this guy to be the savior for a while now. I mean, kind of a scary length of time. In terms of what he can be, makes his teammates better. They have a lot of guys who need to be made better. I mean, it's kind of a talent-deficient roster and a young roster. You look at Brandon Ingram, if you can try to get him into the superstar conversation over the next 2, 3, or 4 years, I can't imagine a better guard to do that than Lonzo. I think he's got the charisma, too, the leadership potential. I'm not sure he's like going to be as loud as his dad. I mean, that's not really his personality, but I do think he's going to sell a lot of jerseys, get Lakers fans invested, and hopefully his dad will kind of, go to the sidelines here as his rookie season unfolds.
There needs to be a LeVar Cam in the green room, right? I mean, we have to have that.
We need a LeVar Cam all next year. Like, sign them up. Yeah, they'll get their reality show deal if this Lakers pick happens.
Right next to Jack Nicholson. All right.
Yeah, right.
That's the second pick in the draft. We move on to the number 3 selection, the aforementioned Boston Celtics. Andrew, where do you think they're going? A lot of mystery here because Danny Ainge has sort of said the guy that they would have taken at 1, they are now considering at 3.
Yes, this is sort of the pick that will control the rest of the lottery. I think everyone's sort of accepted that Lonzo is going number 2. The Celtics could go any number of directions here. Jimmy Butler trades are in the mix. And, I think everybody spends a lot of time trying to decode the Celtics' motivations. If they keep this pick, I think that they will go with Jonathan Isaac from Florida State, which is a little bit of a curveball, but Josh Jackson doesn't really fit with their roster right now. I mean, he has a lot of the same weaknesses that the rest of their guys have. And then Jayson Tatum's the other guy that a lot of people have going to Boston, but he's kind of a ball stopper, and they're looking to bring in star wings like Gordon Hayward or Jimmy Butler, Gordon Hayward and Jimmy Butler. Like, they are not – I don't know if Tatum's game fits as well with what they're trying to do. Ben,
if Isaac goes there at 3, where does he fit in? He's a versatile player, kind of looking for a position, though, in the NBA.
They play a ton of guys, so he's going to be able to – Brad Stevens is going to find a place to fit him. I just am trying to imagine this press conference where it's like, we didn't trade for Paul George. We didn't trade for Jimmy Butler. We didn't draft Lonzo or Markelle Fultz because we traded back. And now we've got this guy who wasn't even really one of the top 2 names kind of forecast at number 3. And Danny Ainge is going to be in kind of defense mode, right?
Here's a 19-year-old kid who probably isn't going to be that great until 2020. But if you're the Celtics, you saw the playoffs. We all saw the playoffs. The Warriors are running the league right now and will be for at least another year or 2. So I understand if they want to plan for the next few years, Isaac is a piece who fits so well, can play as a center in small ball lineups, can play with the 4, and he protects the rim and just fits with where the league is going.
Key word that Andrew said before, if the Celtics keep that pick, right, Robin? Dealer Dan, he likes to make a move.
It's a looming thing every time any sort of trade conversation comes up. And the question is, are they going to go for it now? Or are they going to keep going with the process while still being good at the same time?
You know what's funny is the Celtics and Sixers made that deal. And now it feels like the Celtics are the new process team, where fans are just sort of trusting in Ainge and know that there's a plan and waiting for it to pay off.
They're like the high-end process, the Prada process. These guys are a little bit better. The one thing I would say, though, preaching patience here, that's tough. I mean, they just preached patience at the trade deadline, right? So now they're going to come back out and tell their guys, hey, you got to keep waiting, maybe Gordon Hayward's coming in a couple weeks. I don't know. I'm just worried that Celtics fans are going to be the angry group at the end of the night.
All right, let's move on to number 4. The Suns have the 4 pick. Another team that's rumored to possibly be looking to move back in the draft. Ben, what do you see Phoenix doing?
A lot of people say Jackson for them if he falls. To me, I think they have a lot of point guards, but no answer at point guard, if that makes sense. I'm going De'Aaron Fox. I think this guy's got superstar potential. He's got the moxie, the charisma. An interesting pairing with Devin Booker, and I think that would allow them to free up and trade a guy like Eric Bledsoe. They've been wasting Bledsoe's career here this last couple of years. I mean, he's basically been shut down early, whether because of injury or just because they've been tanking. To me, you have the combination of the speed of a De'Aaron Fox, the driving ability of a De'Aaron Fox, plus the shooting and the spread of a Devin Booker. I think that's something fans could get excited about. These guys need a star for their team to rally around. I mean, that's why you see them in these rumors for guys like DeAndre Jordan. They've just been struggling for so long to really have the face of a franchise. I think the combination of Fox and Booker could be that for them.
I'm pretty upset. This is a curveball.
Yeah.
It starts to screw with the mock a little bit. Josh Jackson was sitting right there. Yeah, look, Fox, I profiled him out in LA a couple weeks ago. He's fantastic. To me, he has the highest ceiling of anyone outside Fultz. He's the best athlete in the draft, and I think people have been sleeping on him a little bit. So Phoenix should make this pick. I don't know if that's what they're going to do, but yeah, he's got John Wall, Russell Westbrook type athleticism, and those are guys that no one should ever be compared to. But Fox is in that category.
Let me say one other reason why I made this pick, because the team right behind Phoenix, Sacramento, is just salivating and dying for De'Aaron Fox. So there could be one of those situations where you could pull out another asset just by taking him at 4 and then making that quick trade. I think you're probably in the mood to make that trade right now if you're at 5, right?
Yeah. The other thing to factor in is when this actually happens in 12 hours or whatever, Phoenix could make any number of deals, because it certainly looks. Josh Jackson did not work out in Boston, and he'll probably be there at 4. And a bunch of teams around the league are trying to trade into that 4 spot to get Jackson. And Phoenix, for whatever reason, I don't know, they've got a great young team. I would just sort of draft someone here and use this as the foundation, but they want an established star. So stay tuned on this one.
Their GM's on the hot seat. I mean, that's part of the problem, is that he's really struggled these last couple of years. He has to have a big summer, and I think that's one of the reasons why he maybe is trying to accelerate this in a way that he shouldn't. They've just been out of the playoffs for a long time. Fan base getting antsy.
Pressure to get it right. Yeah.
Picking in front of Vlade Divac might be able to make you look good. The Sacramento Kings, in their natural environment, the NBA draft lottery. At number 5, where do you think they go with the pick, Andrew?
If this is how it played out, I think they would be pretty panicked. They have been angling for Fox for like the last 2 months, but they would take Josh Jackson because he is the best talent on the board here. And when everything else crumbles, just go for the best player. And Josh Jackson is that guy. I don't think he's going to be sort of a franchise player who can carry an offense, but he's kind of like younger Iguodala. He's a playmaker. He plays every game at like 120 miles an hour, so he will be fun to watch.
Ben really doesn't fit the need, though. They're dying for a point guard.
Yeah.
This is a guy who he can defend probably anyone in the league at this point, stepping right in. But is he a guy who can build around, especially with his offensive skill set?
They're calling Phoenix as often as possible and just trying to make that switch, because you look at their roster, though. After making that DeMarcus Cousins trades, they have holes everywhere. I mean, they're in a position where if they can't get the point guard, it's best player available. I mean, they just have to take the talent, because and that's why they should keep both their picks too, by the way. I mean, they're at 5 and 10. I think they need to add 2 players. They can't package those guys together for one guy, because, I mean, you could say they have a need at point guard, 2 guard, 3, 4, and 5. They got some promising 5s, but honestly, I think they've got more needs than anybody. I'm not a big Buddy Hield believer, so I think that could be another direction they could go. Look at that 2 spot, maybe use him as a 6th man off the bench. But for Sacramento, it's just like get whoever you can get. I actually like this pick.
All right, well, we're 5 picks in. Top 5 is done. Remember, everyone out there, we have our SI Draft Special. That's coming up tonight at 7 p.m., so we're kind of just getting started with a big day of the NBA Draft, and we're going to continue with our mock into the next 5. Number 6 goes to the Orlando Magic. Ben, who you got at 6?
Look, they also need help in lots of places. They have a new management team coming in that is known for kind of swinging big. I think the guy with the star potential at this spot is actually Malik Monk from Kentucky. He hasn't gotten nearly as much attention as a De'Aaron Fox, his former teammate. But look, they have needs. Their guards are not great. You look at Elfrid Payton as sort of their lead guard. I mean, I think I'd be ready to move on from him. You look at Fournier, nothing special. It would be weird if they passed on a guy like Jayson Tatum. All of a sudden, he becomes the guy who slides here. But I just think they have a bigger need in the backcourt. Monk's shooting ability gives him a big ceiling, and that's where I'd go if I were them.
Andrew's shaking his head, guys.
He keeps hitting me with these curveballs, man. I love Malik Monk. I really do. I feel like of everyone in the top 10, Monk is the guy that is probably the most underrated. He just fits so well with the explosive guards that we've seen taking over the league. Like, he fits that prototype. And, he shoots it well. He is a better athlete. Think about how much hype Jamal Murray got during the winter last year. And Monk is Jamal Murray, but a much better athlete. So put him in the pick and roll and let him go to work. I think it'd be a great move for Orlando.
Quick follow-up on that. I don't disagree, but I've seen a lot of hype around Malik Monk. You think there's any validity to criticisms of him not exactly being tall enough and at the same time not filling out the box score, rebounds, assists, those?
That's actually it's good that you push back a little bit. We don't want to be too pro Monk here.
We're pretty pro Kentucky so far.
Right. You guys love the Wildcats.
12 straight Wildcats.
That's a good track record.
Yeah, there are valid concerns about Monk's defense and ability to sort of pass. Passing and defense are both important things in basketball, but I think he's a good enough athlete that as his frame fills out, he's going to be like at least solid on defense. And you look across the league, like, does Russell Westbrook play defense? Does James Harden play defense? Does Isaiah play defense? So
yeah, that's who I was going to say on the size issue, right? I mean, we're seeing more teams spread out, more teams go with 4 smalls or even 5 smalls. I think the size for your lead ball handler is not as important. If Isaiah Thomas can get it done as, a top 5, top 6 offensive player in this league, I don't have huge concerns about Malik Monk being able to do that.
So Monk at 6 probably breaks a lot of Knicks fans' hearts, Robin, thinking he may fall.
Well, those hearts are already broken. I mean, they've basically been ripped out of their chest.
There's not much left in that heart. You're right.
I'm still picking for them. I can do some more breaking here in a couple minutes.
Well, here's another team that could break their heart right before they pick, the Minnesota Timberwolves, who have a lot of young talent. Andrew, who do you think they add to that collection?
Well, in this version of the lottery, I think they would probably go with Jayson Tatum. Yeah. He's not a guy that I love. I think he is a little bit. He would have fit better with the league 15 years ago. He's been compared to Carmelo and Jabari Parker, and he can be sort of a ball stopper on offense, but. For the Wolves, he's a great scorer. They already have Wiggins and Towns, so they don't necessarily need him to be like a franchise guy. And as a complementary piece to Wiggins and Towns, you're not going to do much better than Jayson Tatum. I think the Wolves are coming into tonight hoping that maybe they can get not Josh Jackson, Jonathan Isaac. But Tatum is great. They're going to have a lot of options at 7.
Ben, how does a guy who some consider maybe the most polished in this lottery, ready for the NBA, how does he fall all the way to 7?
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, he could easily be the pick at 3, right? I mean, that's what we mentioned earlier. So if you're Minnesota, even though he's not like a perfect positional fit, you've got some guys you can play there. If he's available at 7, it's like you kind of have to take it. Or maybe you trade that pick to a team that's looking to grab his value. To me, I'm just wary. If your number one skill is isolation score as a wing, I'm just wary at this point where offense is headed for the NBA. If that's really something you want to bank on, I think I would rather have a guard like Malik Monk who can do multiple things off the dribble and kind of initiate an offense rather than a guy who's going to pound and beat you one-on-one with turnaround jumpers. It's just not how the NBA works right now. I do think he's got pretty good star potential. I mean, the polish, like you're mentioning, is there. Not a lot of rough edges. Defensively, maybe a little bit of work to do, but certainly that would be a home run, I think, if he lands at 7. I don't see that happening, by the way.
All right, before we get to 8, let's remind everyone, if you're watching us on Facebook, let us know what you think. Let us know what you think of Andrew and Ben's picks. I don't know if they agree with each other at this point, but give us your feedback, and you can keep watching this straight through pick 14. We're at number 8, and it's a big one, as Robin alludes to. This is the Knicks pick right now, a team in turmoil, a team in shambles, a team with a president who seems set on trading the future in Kristaps Porzingis, if that could actually happen. Guys, Knicks at 8, where do they go with this pick?
Okay, walk me through the Zen Master stuff here, right? So you need a point guard. Derrick Rose was an utter disaster last year. Maybe the worst trade of last summer, followed up very quickly by the worst signing in Joakim Noah.
Yep.
So Phil Jackson's already trying to convince people that he needs to play chess, not checkers, right? But all the good point guards that we really like, or the lead guards that we really like, are gone, except for Dennis Smith, the kind of conventional American player, or Frank Ntilikina, the guy who's got the crazy long wingspan from overseas, who can make you look like the super smart, I know more than you, kind of condescending pick. Which way do you think Phil Jackson's going? I think Frank Ntilikina at number 8. And I'm already getting ready for the shots to the fans who are going like this and saying who at Madison Square Garden.
Well, first of all, shouts out to you for the correct pronunciation
I did my homework.
French Frank's name. Under pressure. Yeah, man, I like that pick for the Knicks. I mean, I actually don't like Ntilikina's game that much, but
they're thinking.
If you're wondering what Phil can do to piss off the most Knicks fans, I think Ntilikina is the answer. Are you a Knicks fan?
I'm a Knicks fan, and Robin has spent plenty of time with the Knicks, and I'm thinking one name. Frederick Weiss when I hear of Ntilikina at 8.
I talked to Vince Carter today, so Frederick Weiss is fresh in my mind. And, you know, the problem with the Knicks, actually, though, is not their drafting and it's not their scouting. They've done well with international picks.
Yeah.
They've done well with bringing guys out of the D-League. The problem is what happens once they get to the Knicks. It's been the player development that's been the real issue.
Yeah, well, Ntilikina would be a good fit. He's a really solid defender, and he can hit threes, so if they're intent on building around the triangle until like 2025, which it seems like they are, then Ntilikina makes sense. I don't know.
Yeah, to your point, Robin, I mean, if you're doing draft needs for the Knicks, obviously point guard's way up on the board, but number 1's a new owner, number 1's a new president, and then number 1 is new coach. I mean, they need to just completely overhaul everything. So whoever gets picked here is kind of being set up for failure, especially if they wind up trading Porzingis, which is sort of the buzz recently.
Yeah. Ben mentioned the face that people are going to see when Frank is picked. I'm going to be sitting there like that as well.
See, then I nailed this pick, right? I mean, I pretty much
We've
did
seen it before.
So let me ask you, as a Knicks fan, do you think they are actually going to trade Porzingis?
I don't. I think it's posturing, and I told Robin before the show, if they trade Porzingis, I'm done. I am done. I am not. I'm going to find a new team to root for. It's that simple at this point.
Here's how great Phil Jackson has been, right? What he's accomplished is he's got Knicks fans asking for James Dolan to intervene. Think about how incredible that accomplishment is.
The epitome of dysfunction over in New York. All right, we're moving on to 9, Robin, right?
We've got the Dallas Mavericks, who are not usually in this position. They've been that team that makes the playoffs no matter what. This is the first time in a while they sort of quasi-bottomed out. Andrew, where do you have Dallas going?
I have Dallas taking Dennis Smith Jr. from NC State. He, talent-wise, he could be as good as anyone in the top 10. He's a scorer. He's a little bit like Fultz in that, like, he went to NC State and they were an awful team for most of the year, and a lot of people looked at that and said, maybe this guy is not a winner. Like, maybe we should rethink this. And so I think his stock fell a little bit this year, but on pure talent, he's a phenomenal athlete and will be great again in these teams as teams spread the floor and hand it to the guards in the pick and roll. Like, Dennis Smith fits that perfectly. His defense is a real issue and could lead to homicide with Rick Carlisle in Dallas, but I think as a value pick, it's a smart play for Dallas.
The best part about this is that we've just put Sacramento behind the 8 ball again because we just took another point guard off the board. So now they're sitting here with picks 5 and 10 and potentially not able to draft a single impact point guard. They don't have a good point guard on the roster. Now all of a sudden Vladdy's really getting itchy. He's getting really nervous. Now he's trying to call Dallas too.
Smoking a lot of cigarettes, Vladdy.
Let's get to that 10 pick. You guys had the Suns take Fox at 4 right before the Kings, who ended up taking Jackson. Still need a point guard, Ben. Is there a point guard left that's worthy of the 10th pick?
I mean, the Kings are great. I don't see a point guard left. I mean, the Kings are kind of pseudo-intellectual, right? They're probably about 3 or 4 years behind best practices when it comes to the NBA. So what I see them doing here is Lowry Markkanen, right? The stretch shooting big guy. You would have been really excited if he was in the NBA draft 5 years ago, but now with the rise of two-way players, with the rise of more versatility, interchangeability positions, I have kind of questions about how good of a player he's going to be. I'm not sure Sacramento is going to have thought that far ahead, though. I think they're going to see 7-foot shooter and just say, oh, this guy's going to stretch out for us. It's going to be wonderful. We know that they're not going to have a good draft night as well. And I think if this is one of their 2 picks, that kind of fulfills our low expectations.
Interesting. He's gotten comparisons to Dirk Nowitzki.
Yeah, well, okay.
The Mavs, you don't think the Mavs would want him at 9?
Not for me. Have you made that comparison?
I have not made that comparison. You know what, though? I don't think that the Kings are going to have a bad draft night. You seem resigned to it. I think that the Kings have turned a corner post-Boogie. I think that they're going to walk away with De'Aaron Fox. And I do think Lauri Markkanen is going to be the pick at 10. And that makes sense to me. I think if you have 2 lottery picks, gambling on Markkanen's upside with one of them is a good play. And, he's 7 feet and he's the best shooter in the draft. So that's a skill that's going to translate regardless. Worst case scenario, you're looking at like sort of a Ryan Anderson type player. If he can start to put it on the floor a little bit and get again, a lot of these guys just need to get to decent on defense. And I think at that point, you're looking at a potential all-star.
See, and that's my point, because you would have loved Ryan Anderson in 2009. Well, it's 2017.
Yeah.
So that's why.
Ryan Anderson had some good years, man.
We are deep enough in the draft where not everybody can be the best player in the league. Though, too.
We're deep enough in the draft where we should be making fun of Sacramento. That's
right.
my point.
All right.
No, you can make fun of Charlotte. I mean, generally their draft picks are pretty easy to make fun of.
I'm in on the Kings. Let's move to the Hornets.
All right, we're moving to the Hornets.
Who do you got Charlotte taking now, Andrew, at number 11?
Charlotte, I have them taking Donovan Mitchell. Donovan Mitchell is a guy who, do you remember Mike Mamula in the NFL draft? So Donovan Mitchell's a little bit like Mike Mamula. He's worked out really well. His measurements at the combine kind of blew teams away. And by the same token, though, I was watching him in the NCAA tournament, and he guards his ass off up and down the floor, and he can hit threes. So I was kind of like, why is this guy not mentioned in the lottery? And so the draft process has kind of seen him rise to that level. And he kind of, think of him like an Avery Bradley type player who's going to be able to do a couple different things in the backcourt and play multiple positions and lock people down. And so the Hornets are a good team who could use someone who can help like more immediately, and Mitchell is that guy.
The Hornets just landed Dwight Howard in the front court. Mitchell, Ben, 35% shooting from three-point range in college. Is he a strong enough shooter to warrant this pick?
Well, I think you've got time to develop that from him, because when you look at their roster, I mean, it's pretty much locked in, especially now after this Howard trade. I mean, they've got the veteran guards, the veteran wings. I mean, you're looking at Kemba, Nicholas Batum, Marvin Williams, kind of as a stretch guy. All those guys have long-term money. I mean, that's pretty much their squad, and it's been a proven team. When they've been healthy, especially when they've had Cody Zeller healthy, that's been a team that should be in the playoff picture. They probably should have made the playoffs last year if he hadn't had the injury issues. To me, they're drafting here for depth, basically, and I think he represents, some pretty interesting player.
I think they're missing what Jeremy Lin brought to the team a little bit.
Yeah, they actually did miss Lin, man. That was hard last year. They couldn't really find someone to replace him off the bench. And I don't know if Mitchell is that guy, but he will definitely help shore up the perimeter defense.
All right, we've got 3 picks to go, 12 through 14. The Pistons are up next. Ben, who goes at 12?
I mean, maybe this is like the Tayshaun Prince comps coming through, but Justin Jackson, I think, at 12. I mean, the reason why I'm going there for them, Stanley Johnson really hasn't worked out. I mean, that's been a guy who's been sent to the D-League. They just had some issues. They've got a hole there. I'm not sure if he's going to be better right off the bat than a Stanley Johnson, but I think they just need to address that position. But look, Detroit's kind of got bigger issues than just this draft pick, right? Reggie Jackson, is he really the point guard of their future? Does anybody believe in him? Is Andre Drummond going to be trade bait? I mean, that's kind of been floating out there. I think Stan Van Gundy's kind of backed himself into a hole with a really expensive roster with a lot of underperforming players. To me, the answer here at this pick would just be dependability, versatility, a guy who you can probably get some minutes from in year one. And you're going to probably try to tear the rest of the roster down this summer to some degree. Maybe not blow it up, but at least tear it down a little bit.
Robin, this is a guy who's played in a lot of big basketball games. Seems like he could contribute right away.
Yeah, I mean, when you get that sort of program, right, these one-and-done programs, a lot of people want to criticize them. But if you're going there and you're playing with those kind of guys, that caliber of player, it is the probably best seasoning you're going to get to go to the pros. So those pro factories like Kentucky and like North Carolina.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 picks to go.
The
13.
Denver Nuggets.
Yeah, Nuggets are left. What do we got there, Andrew?
Stretch. I think Zack Collins is my pick here if I'm Denver. In part because I'm not sure what they want to do. I mean, they have young players all over the roster, but Collins is a guy who can protect the rim, and they need someone that can do that next to Jokic. Jokic is phenomenal on offense, but his defense is an issue, and Collins is a guy who can sort of shoot from three on offense and stay out of the way and allow Jokic to operate down low, but they need him on defense. And so I think he's probably a year or two away from being able to sort of contribute big minutes, but it's a smart investment at 13.
This is a guy who didn't play a whole lot last year either.
Right.
I think 17 minutes per game in college.
And then he had a couple moments in the tournament where you're like, whoa, where the hell did this guy come from? So he's definitely got some potential.
And they're in position to bring him along slowly. I mean, they've already got their center position basically locked in. So, to me, I don't know if you can kind of give him 2 or 3 years to become who he is in Denver. You don't have to throw him to the wolves.
All right, last pick. We're 14 in out of 14 picks we're giving you today on our mock draft special. It's the Miami Heat. Ben, wrap things up. Give us the final pick.
Last one, Luke Kennard. I'm going there. I think he's the best shooter available right at this point. I mean, we've been taking a lot of shooters. I don't like his lack of defensive statistics. I mean, obviously that's going to be an issue. He's not a very impactful defensive player, but there's a good system down there in Miami. And they also have multiple guys who are already driving kick options off the dribble, whether it's Dragic, whether they bring back Dion Waiters. I'm just looking for a simple floor spacer. I don't know if he's got the biggest ceiling in the world. But, at this spot, shooting is what everybody wants. I mean, it's highly coveted. If he can be that proven guy for you, then I'll take it. And competitor, too.
Robin, this is a guy who seems to have impressed scouts in the last week or so with his shooting ability. He really lit it up in front of these guys.
Yeah, he's not one of those guys with the measurables that jump off at you, but he seems to be able to get to his spots and get his shot off. So I don't think you're looking at him as any sort of potential star, but you are looking at him as maybe a role player who can really contribute at what he's specifically good at doing.
All right, there's picks 1 through 14 in our mock draft. Guys, think about this as a whole. I've got the list in front of me. When you look at how this played out right here at 11 o'clock Eastern on Thursday morning, which team do you think made out the best in this first 14?
I'd say all 7 of mine. But, I think Kentucky.
Speaking like Phil Jackson over there.
I think Kentucky won.
Look, Kentucky wins every June, okay? Yeah. This is their moment. This is their national title. I, first of all, want to apologize for agreeing too much because we were kind of on the same page with a lot of these guys. I think the big winner tonight is the Sixers. I think you could go back to where they were a week ago. The guys that they would have taken at 3 didn't really fit with their team, and people weren't sure about the future. Add Markelle Fultz to the mix, and everything looks better, and it all sort of makes sense now, and that can't be overstated. There's 5 or 6 crazy things that could happen tonight, but I think over the long haul, we're going to look back at this and say, man, the Sixers nailed that deal.
You know what I really noticed about that? Did you see that Fultz seemed to be rocking their gear with pride? I mean, remember Okafor?
He was into it, yeah.
Okafor threw the hat down. It was basically a metaphor for his career. But the Sixers now, they've done enough, at least in perception, where the top pick is like, I'm going there.
Yeah, well, and he grew up in D.C., so Philly's right near there. And, I mean, I really think that he could sense that the Celtics were lukewarm and then met with the Sixers and was like, wait a second, this team loves me. I'm in. And that's a good sign.
I felt like that deal was a win-win-win. I also want to, let's say the Lakers are winners here too, right? I mean, they were kind of winners from draft lottery night once they kept their pick and got to be in the top 2 because I think they always wanted Lonzo. But if they do come out of here with Lonzo, they're looking at a situation where they needed hope badly. It's been a long 3 or 4 years here since Kobe Bryant really first got injured, then went into his retirement. Is it going to work out perfectly? I don't know, but I guarantee there's going to be lots of jerseys sold, lots of tickets sold, lots more hype around the next year's Lakers team than there was these last couple seasons.
Okay, but the LeBron to the Lakers is a real thing that the NBA is going to be talking about all summer, all next year. Lonzo is going to have a ton of pressure on him as the guy who's sort of a foundational piece now, and a foundational piece that the Lakers are going to look at as a sort of a selling point for free agents. So tonight is a win, but I don't know how quickly he's going to get acclimated in the NBA, and that's going to be the next challenge for the Lakers.
The toughest part is point guards always come along slowly, right?
Yeah.
You're going to have turnovers, you're going to miss shots. That could make for a long rookie season. And you've got LeBron and Paul George looking over your shoulder like, hey, you're kind of in our way.
Does LeBron want to come play with a 20-year-old kid who weighs 160 pounds? Like, I don't know.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I don't know. I don't think so.
All right, let's go rapid fire through a couple of recap questions. Biggest surprise from the draft?
Biggest surprise tonight, I think that the Celtics are going to do something crazy at 3. I don't think that they're going to stay there and draft Tatum or Jackson.
Yeah, I think the Kings are also a big-time wild card because I always look for the desperation. I can just kind of smell the desperation emanating from their organization. They got to get De'Aaron Fox or a point guard of that caliber one way or another if he's not there at 5, and I could see him going at 4. It could get interesting.
What about you, Robin? Where does the surprise come from in this lottery?
I think it's going to be the Knicks,
Yeah.
one way or the other. Either the person they draft or what they do with that pick if it is involving Kristaps Porzingis. You can't be surprised. Well, no, you are perpetually surprised by the Knicks, so therefore you're almost not surprised, if that makes sense.
No, it is, because if they trade Porzingis, we're surprised and we're shaking our heads. And if they don't trade him, we're surprised that Phil Jackson did something logical. So
yeah.
we're going to be surprised either way. Yeah. How about steal of the draft tonight? Where does it come from?
Yeah, I think whoever gets Malik Monk, especially if he goes where most of the mocks are saying, if he's down there in that 8, 9, 10 range, to me, that is the best value play. For the reasons why I drafted him at 6.
Yeah, I think Dennis Smith and Malik Monk are the two guys in the second half of the top 10 who have a chance to be better than most of the guys above them. And just in terms of the way the NBA values explosive scorers, like they fit perfectly.
And finally, biggest bust potential.
Ooh.
I'd say Larry Markkinen. I mean, I know I'm going straight there. I've already kind of dug into him a little bit. I just think you need to do a lot of things in today's NBA. Just being that 7-foot shooter, if you can't guard your position or any position, that's a big-time problem. And it could be one of those situations where he just floats. Remember Luke Babbitt? I mean, it was a similar situation. Is that one-way shooter, crazy like 50, 40, 90 numbers coming out of college, and now he's been a role player for 5 seasons.
Okay, but I think that too many people are picking Lowry as the answer to the bust
Too
question.
obvious.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
He's too obvious as the bust. I think he's going to end up surprising people and being good. The bust for me is probably Luke Kennard, although Josh Jackson, if he doesn't learn to shoot and ends up in the wrong situation, he could be a bust as well. Kennard's defense is a real issue, and you can be a bad defender if you're a superstar level scorer, but I think he projects more as like a 15-point per game type guy, and you can't. It's going to be hard to keep him on the court if he can't guard with that level of production.
All right, these guys have done a lot of prognosticating, predicting over the last few weeks. We finally get some answers beginning tonight.
I can't wait.
And Andrew, host of the Open Floor podcast. Thank you guys. I know you'll be all over the draft tonight.
We're going to be compulsively checking Twitter like everybody
else. You guys
else.
will be there, and on our SI draft special tonight. That's at 7 o'clock Eastern. That's going to do it for this NBA mock draft edition of SI Now. Be sure to tune in to SI.com's draft special. That's tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern, right here on SI.com, as well as on Facebook and YouTube. And be sure to stick with SI.com for all the latest NBA and sports news throughout the day. There could be more trades before tonight. Right now, Robin, the Sixers are on the clock. We're going to see you tomorrow. We'll have some answers beginning on Friday.
What's Phil Jackson going to do?
Answers. We need answers, guys. Questions, we need answers.